How's it, guys? Okay, so this is the second night. I finished quite late with the bike, so I decided to leave it there. This video is going to be more useful for the guys who have bought the full kit with the Godzilla. The Godzilla filter is only really to be used if you're going to get rid of that paper filter element in the fuel pump. I showed you the other night that there was quite a bit of residue left in the fuel. Here you can see it. I've tried to see with a magnet if it's magnetic, but it didn't seem to be too magnetic. But now that it's dry, you can see this is actually, it's like paper, so I'm assuming it's that paper filter that's busy disintegrating. So maybe it was a good time to change that filter out, because it would have just gotten worse and worse. So I've taken the bash plate off tonight, and I've got all the fuel lines undone and everything ready to go, because for this part you need to take the tank off to be able to access the fuel line to fit that automotive canister filter. So I'm going to service the bike when I'm done. I first need to get this done, get fuel in it, get it running, so I can go and ride it so we can get the engine up to temperature and then drain the oil. So for this part, you need to remove the fuel tank. There's lots of videos on YouTube how to do that. So as you can see, I've taken all the panels off and it's basically ready to go. Everything's been undone, so I'm ready to take the fuel tank off now, and then I'm going to start fitting the canister filter to the whole setup. I'll explain what happens when I get there. Okay, so fuel tank's off. Next part that we need to get to is to fit that filter. Here you can see, here's the fuel line that enters into the injectors. So you can see it runs through and past the frame, and then here at the bottom is the quick connector that comes out of your tank, the fuel line from your tank basically. So the pump will pump your fuel all the way up here and into the engine. So what we're going to do is we're going to add that inline filter somewhere in this line, but we're not going to split this line. We're simply going to loosen that clamp there at the bottom, if you can see that. Then we're going to attach that end to the inlet of the filter, and the extra hose that is supplied in the kit to the outlet of the filter, and the outlet of that hose will be attached in this point. So it's simply a matter of routing the hoses and finding a nice place for that filter to sit where it's not going to be subject to too much movement. We'll probably end up cable tying it to the frame and just putting something around it to try and insulate it as well. The only way that you can really get to that hose and that clamp, by the looks of things, is the airbox needs to come off. So it might be a good idea that to do this when you want to service your air filter. It means that you have to go through the same process. It's a bit of a faff to do all of this work. I've lost quite a bit of petrol because I keep on forgetting to close fuel taps, but it's worth it, because at the end of the day we're going to do this once, and we only really need to, depending on where we locate the filter, do this again, open everything up to change the filter in about 30,000 kilometers from now. But if we are clever about it, we don't need to take the tank and everything off. But I'll see where I'm going to locate my filter and I'll show you how that goes together. It's one of those Utica style clamps. So to try and get that off, you have to cut the ear that you can see there. I don't know if you can see, there's the ear there by my finger. And ideally you want to cut it in the center as to not damage the fuel hose. Now the only way for you to really get in there is to remove the airbox. So what I've basically done is, I'm not going to pull the whole airbox out. There's an oil return back into the airbox from the front cylinder, like you have here in the rear cylinder. And to try and get that out, there's a hose that runs between the two with yet more Utica clamps. So to try and get in there to cut them is a pain in the backside, and I don't have enough hose clamps to replace them with another clamp. So what I've basically done is I've removed the clamping section that holds the front air intake. It's just 3 little of these screws that have a Torx head in them. Pull that off, and then that allows you to free the snorkel inlet into the airbox. So you can just basically maneuver the airbox out of the way so you can try and get in from the top with a side cutter to try and cut that clamp. So that's what I'm going to do now. Once I've got that done, that clamp off and that pipe out, I'll get back to you with another video. I've located the filter, which is here. I basically put it into a piece of inner tube that I cut out. It's just to protect it from vibration and from the frame, and also apparently from heat. It helps. So the hose that is supplied in your kit, I've cut a section off, and you can see that hose is running through here. So it basically goes into the fuel rail at the bottom, and then it runs through here, and then there's a little like a locating bracket for it looks like the ECU. So I've routed it around the back basically and into the fuel filter, into the top of the fuel filter, and at the bottom I've used the existing hose. So this is the section that has the quick connect at the bottom, so that's onto the filter, and I've just routed it through the frame for now. I'm worried that this might be too short. I'll have to have a look when I put the tank on and I get the other quick disconnect up, the female to this, to see if they both go together, if they meet. And then the other thing that concerns me a little bit, but we'll have to see, I've loosened the airbox and basically taken the throttle body intakes off to move the fuel or the airbox out the way so I could get this fuel hose into place. Split the Utica clamp and put in the stainless steel hose clamp. So that now I just need to see. I don't think it'll be a problem, but I just want to double check when I fasten the airbox back down that it's in place and it's not getting in the way of this clamp. So I'll see that. And then what I also noticed is once this is inside here, if you have the, I believe it's called SAS elimination kit or eliminator kit or something like that, this will actually fit in a lot better. You could also lengthen this hose and lengthen the bottom hose, effectively taking off the quick disconnect at the bottom and using a longer hose, and you could fit this filter towards the rear shock. But the only thing that worries me a little bit is, as you can see, you've got the rear cylinder and the header coming off right here, so I'm just worried about heat in this area. I'm not sure if it's going to be too hot. I've got two of those carbon fiber panels that go over here, and my concern is just that it's going to heat up the area inside here a little bit too much. It might be unfounded, I'm not sure, but what I was thinking was maybe of doing this eliminator later, which then means that there will be more space for this filter. But at the moment, as you can see, it's pretty snug in there. I don't think it'll vibrate too much, and the other important thing is just to make sure that there's no kinks in the hoses, that you're not kinking them when you feed it through, and make sure to give yourself enough additional or extra hose so that you're not putting any strain on the hoses themselves, potentially causing any damage. The last thing that I realized is I've already packaged everyone's stuff up, and I've dropped it off at Postnet. So as the payments come in, I'll let them know and they'll send them off. But the one thing that I did realize is that I didn't include enough hose clamps for this filter kit. Now at this stage, Renru, I'm really sorry. What I would suggest is just getting an 8, I believe it's about 8 to 12 millimeter stainless steel quality hose clamp. Just go and buy one at your local hardware store, contact the Worth guys, they should be able to get you one. But I only included 2 in the kits for the 990 guys. I'm really sorry about that. I'm not sure which clamps you have on your bike, but if it's the Utica clamps, once you take it off, you throw it away, you can't use it again. So you basically need 1 top of the filter, 2 bottom of the filter, 3 clamps total, and I've only included 2 in your kit. I'm really sorry about that. I hope I can make it up in the future somehow, but I'm going to start putting everything back together again, see if this airbox fits in the way that it should, and then basically get the tank on, get some fuel in the tanks, and then start it up and see how it runs. Cool. Tank's on, none of the hoses are on the way. I'll just give you a quick view again of where the filter is located. Here's that canister filter that we've been talking about. So you can see the hose runs down behind this SAS hose, and then it routes through the back of the frame and basically through here, and I don't know if you can see, goes behind the oil filler there and comes out the front. So here, let me just make sure you can see there you've got the fuel pipe to the filter, and here's the fuel pipe from the tank. Now as you can see, this used to come down from the top, so with the angle it would meet up perfectly, but there is some space inside there. So we should be able to get this just to push back and up. Sorry, the video quality is terrible, but to push back and up and get this connected, the quick disconnect. So I'm going to start putting all of that back together. There's a bit of fuel left in the tank, but I'm just going to put some of the fuel that I drained back into the tank, and then get the bike fired up, get it on the road for a bit of a test ride, see how it goes. But the main point is just to get it warmed up. I need to change that, guys. You can see that's quite dirty. That's done about 7,500 kilometers, and it's time to change. Oil level is also quite low. The bike's been running fine, there's not been any issues, but I bought 4 liters of Motorex, so we'll get that changed out tonight as well. Bash plate and everything's been taken off, so ready to get that stuff done. I'll let you know how that test ride goes. Okay guys, running. I had to prime it a couple of times, but everything is in and it's working. Don't carry on swinging if you start your bike, especially after this filter fitment, and it doesn't want to start on the first crank or so, or if you can hear that it's not taking, just switch it off by the ignition and switch it on. Do that a couple of times. You'll hear that, you can hear when the pump's running when you switch it on. And when you switch it off, just leave it off for a second with the key until everything, you can hear everything's gone silent. Then you can switch on again, try once more. I had to do that, I would say probably about 6 or 7 times now, and then it almost took, I did another 2 times just to be sure, and then the bike took first go. So everything's now installed. We've got everything hooked up again. As you can see, there's our fuel quick disconnect. Both the balancing tube and both the petcocks are open. Also an important thing, make sure that you've got these 2 balancing tubes connected and that both petcocks are open. I normally open mine all the way and give them like a quarter turn back just to make sure that they don't seize in place. And then that's it, you should be good to go. Fuel, there's some fuel in the tank. I'm going to go and take a ride now if it's not raining outside, just to see how the fill up goes, and then I'll take a video of that and show you guys how quickly it is, or how quick or how long it takes to refill this. Cool, see you then. It's 12:30 in the morning. Excuse the gloves and excuse the helmet. I just filled up 20.41 liters. First fill up with the filters. It took me I think it was 2 minutes 30 seconds to do that, so I suppose it's slow, or slower than usual, or I suppose you have to be more careful, because now remember that you've got inside here, you've got that filter, so the filter is lying on the bottom of the tank basically. So if a guy just sticks the fuel nozzle in, he's going to make contact with the bottom of the filter and potentially damage it. So you need to just be careful. Just stayed on the bike and made sure you didn't push it all the way through. But yeah, it went well. 2 minutes 30 seconds. We'll see. Apparently it improves as the filter gets to use, or you get to use the filter. I didn't, and I'm not going to really push the bike now. It's been raining here, so it's wet. I'm off to bed. Everything's done. The bike's working, running nicely. Now it's just the service, but I'll do that tomorrow night. But yeah, I hope you guys have good results with your filters and that you're happy, and if you are, we're happy to help. And Bill, thanks a lot for your help, man, and for all the developments. We really appreciate it.